Let's talk about part dose of the Washington quarters list. Like 12, 15-ish amount of Washington quarters. Some of them have errors, some of them are just low mintages, some of them are really, really rare. Some of them hold records where they've sold in upwards of like $10,000 or more. So I thought you guys would really like it since you guys seem to like the first one, first part of the list. I didn't want to kill you with like 50 coins, so I figured two parts would be okay with you folks. And then I got sick for a few days, but nobody cares about that. Let's get to the money and look through a list of Washington quarters that you can find in your pocket change that could make you some really good cash above face value. Let's do it. These are going to range from the beginning of the series all the way through, so I think you might find stuff that's a little easier to find than others on the list, so it's still going to be pretty fun. No matter whether it's a quarter that's harder to find or easier to find. These are all ones that you can find in circulation, albeit some of the really old ones might be a little more seldom seen. So let's start off with one of those, with the 1934 Washington quarter. These can be worth in upwards of a couple $100 if they're graded really well. There was over 31 million of them produced, so a fair amount of them, albeit a lot lower than other years of quarters. They are a 90% silver quarter, and there's three things really that you want to look at. So there are known double dies on the words "In God We Trust," as well as a couple other portions, and these can be worth anywhere from around $100 to thousands of dollars, depending on grade. There's also a version, two different versions or varieties, one with a lightly printed motto and one with a heavily printed motto, both of which would be seen in the words "In God We Trust" as well, and can be worth a bit more than just the standard quarter, and I will show you some examples in the photos here, of course. There was far more of them produced out of the Philadelphia Mint than the Denver Mint in 1934, 32 million versus 4 million, making those Denver minted coins worth far more, and we'll talk about those in a minute. On the low end, these can be worth just their face value if they're really beat up, but on an average with good condition around $10 to $15, and then in upwards of $200+ in decent grades, and then ones with errors and that are also graded can be worth thousands of dollars. Next, we'll talk 1935 quarters, so just 1 year newer than the previously mentioned ones. These can be worth really good money too. On a low end, of course, 25 cents, but that's just face value. The melt value of these coins is like $5. These also had a similar amount minted, which was 32 million of them out of Philadelphia. One's minted out of San Francisco, unlike the 34 coins, and of course Denver as well, both of which had about 6 million, and we'll talk about those a little later in the list as far as value. 75% roughly of all Washington quarters were minted out of Philadelphia, and all of them are 90% silver. These are a really good coin to look for because, again, with the content alone of silver, they're worth far over face value. But with a lower mintage comparatively to other quarters, they're a good one to look for as well. Usually in good condition, about $4 or $5. Graded really well, about $150. And then if you have errors and stuff, double dies that are known in the words "In God We Trust" as well as Liberty, those can be worth quite a bit. Next on the list is the 1983 coins out of Philadelphia and Denver. These are both worth similar values, but there was a slight amount produced out of San Francisco, which are really valuable, and we'll talk about those in a bit. You'll want to really look at the mint marks on these quarters on the obverse of the coin or front. If you're looking for errors, then Broadstrikes as well as multi-strikes are known, and there's also double strike errors for 1983. These are probably the most popular, and there's a few double dies known as well that can be worth hundreds of dollars across all of the coins. These are, of course, not a silver coin, but there was 617 million of them made out of Denver, so a ton of them. Surprisingly, way more, in the millions more out of Philadelphia, 674, and only 3 million out of San Francisco. So these are really good coins to look for, especially for errors. In really good condition, they can be worth around $25, $30. And of course, on the low end, just 25 cents. The ones out of Philadelphia, a little bit more. That's because there's a lot more errors to look for. And for some reason, despite the fact Philadelphia has more of them produced out of it, almost 50 million more of them produced, or over 50 million more, there's just less of them out there that are in really good condition or graded really well. There was 673 million of them that were produced out of Philadelphia, but they do hold a little higher value, topping out around 50 bucks. Next on the list is the 1982 Philadelphia Washington quarter. This is kind of a semi-key date, a really important date. That these sit, anywhere from 25 cents and upwards of $40. There was far less of them made than the previously talked about coin, at 500 million of them made. The ones minted out of San Francisco bearing an S mint mark from 1982 are going to be the most valuable out of these coins, of course. There's only a few known errors. There's a super rare one, one of the most valuable errors ever seen, 4 quarters, which is a quarter struck on a 5-cent nickel planchet. But there's also strike-throughs and off-center strikes in these coins. On the low end, these Philadelphia coins share a similar mintage to Denver, which had 480 million, and are similar value. And they go for anywhere between 25 cents and 40 bucks. Next on the list is the 1937 San Francisco quarters. These are really valuable in some states. These can range anywhere from around 30 bucks and upwards of $400 or $500. This is due to an extremely, extremely low mintage of only 1.6 million out of San Francisco. And they're also 90% silver, so their melt value is $5 or $6 alone. The average value of a decently graded one is close to $200, $150 to $200 for these coins without any sort of errors or anything like that. And that's again because out of San Francisco, it only makes up roughly 4.8% or 5% or something like that of the overall coins that were minted that year. Next on the list is the 1939S, which is another really good one. Super low mintage of 2.6 million out of San Francisco for that year. Ones that are in high MS grades can sell for anywhere between $200 and $300 bucks. But just average circulated condition can be still worth between like $8 and $15, which is killer for a 25-cent coin. And if it's totally beat, the melt value right now is a little over $5. So a 1939S is worth grabbing up all day long. These are great coins. They're kind of considered an important date or semi-key date. And, just wonderful coin to add to the collection for just its silver content alone. And it can be worth tons if it's in really good condition. Next up on the list is the 1935 coins, the Denver and San Francisco specifically. Starting with the Denver, on the low end, $7 to $10. It's a 90% silver coin with only 5.7 million of them made. So these can be over like $600 or $700 if they're graded really well. And that's due to a really low mintage out of Denver for that year. The higher end, like MS66 coins, they can sell for close to $1,100 or $1,200. I think one went in an auction in 2021 or 22 for like $890, and that's after subtracting the fees and stuff like that. There was a little bit more of them made out of Denver than San Francisco. So let's talk about the San Francisco ones, which can be worth similar value, but a little bit lower. I think because there's just more of them on the market currently. They can be worth an upwards of $300 or $400 for these coins. On the low end, the melts, again, around $5 or $6, but these can sell for usually about $10 in average circulated condition. The last ones on the list, all 3 coins from 1932. So we'll talk about all 3 of them, of course. Let's start with the Philadelphia minted coins, which are going to be the most minted for that year. There was over 5 million of them minted in 1932 out of Philadelphia. With the silver content at 90%, you can make about $6 for them just off silver melt value alone. But graded really well, these can be worth well over $500, $600 range easily. But over 80% of them came out of Philadelphia. But 1932 was also the first year of the Washington quarter. So that would, of course, make all of these coins really great to look for. There are known errors on these, like multi-strikes and double dies, so you can keep an eye out for those too. They're really rare, but worth thousands of dollars. The Denver minted coins had a little bit more made of them than the ones out of San Francisco, but only 436,000 of them were minted. So a super low mintage for these coins, making them worth a lot of money. One of them sold in auction in mint state condition for well over $15,000. On the low end, these can be worth a couple $100 in really good condition, and graded, even mid-grade, can be worth thousands. 1932 Denver coins are just great ones to look for. And that leads us to the last on the list, which is its San Francisco counterpart, with only 408,000 of these 90% silver Washington quarters made. They range anywhere from the low end of over $100 to well over 20 grand in some auction record prices for 1932 San Francisco coins. It's due to the fact that only 11% of those coins were minted out of San Francisco in 1932, on top of the fact that it is the first year of the Washington quarter. So these are just really, really cool coins. Currently, the record for one of these is an MS-66 condition 1932 Washington quarter. That coin sold in 2021 for $34,800. Let me know what you think about this list. I think quarters are just a fun one to look for. Any coins are fun to look for, but everybody, I think, loves some pennies and quarters. So hopefully you enjoyed the list. I'm sure there is a ton of other Washington quarters I could have mentioned, so please add them in the comments or link me to your videos about them. Comment coins that you like to look for. If I missed something, please correct me in the comments. That's what this YouTube channel and my website, Variety Errors, is about. It's about growing together, right? I started as a beginner. I'm still a beginner in a lot of ways, but I love this hobby amongst collecting many things. So let me know what you've come across in your coin and banknote searches in the comments as well. So I'll talk to you there, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Peace out.